Welcome back to Speak More Fluently. Today we're diving into something I think we all kind of struggle with, like how do we actually build a vocabulary that lets us, you know, really express ourselves in English? Not just like basic words and definitions, but like a vocabulary that feels natural, almost like, we were born speaking it.
It really is about bridging that gap, isn't it, between just knowing the words and being able to use them confidently. Imagine reading a book, right? And not just understanding what's happening, but really getting the author's style, their word choices, or like catching all the jokes in a movie without having to think about it. That's what we're going for.
Yeah, it's like having a secret code or something. You can unlock so much more meaning and connect with people on a deeper level. But where do we even start? I remember when I was learning those vocabulary lists, it was like trying to memorize the phone book.
Oh, tell me about it. Just rote memorization. It kills the joy of learning, doesn't it? What's really interesting is that research actually shows that learning new words in context is way more effective. Think about it like this. You wouldn't learn to cook just by reading a dictionary of ingredients, would you? You need to see how they all come together in a recipe, what they do, and then, taste the final dish.
So instead of just memorizing a word like meticulous, I should see it in a sentence. Like the artist was meticulous in their brush strokes. And then boom, it makes sense.
Exactly. And to make those words really stick, we can try something that memory champions use. They're called mnemonic devices. Let's say you're trying to remember elaborate, right? Picture an artist starts with a simple sketch, and then they add more details and more, making it really elaborate. That picture in your mind will help you remember the word.
Whoa, that's actually really cool. Like making a mini movie for each word. But even with all these tricks, I used to forget new words so fast. How do we make them stick, like for good?
That's where the vocabulary journal comes in. And it's not just about writing down definitions. Think of it more like a diary of your language journey. You can add those mnemonic images, write example sentences, even note down how a word makes you feel.
It's like almost giving each word its own personality, makes it more memorable.
Precisely. And don't just stop at writing. Try recording yourself saying the word, use it in conversations, sneak it into an email. The more you actively use it, the more natural it'll become.
And speaking of making it fun, we can't forget all the amazing tools we have nowadays, right? All the apps, websites, even podcasts like ours are designed to make learning vocabulary fun and kind of addictive, to be honest.
It's true. There are apps like Memrise, for example. They turn learning vocab into a game using those mnemonics we were talking about and spaced repetition to help you master new words. And then if you like a good challenge, there's Anki, which uses flashcards and this really smart algorithm to make sure you review words right before you're about to forget them.
It's like having a personal vocab trainer
right
in your pocket. But, sometimes even with all that, I feel like I'm missing something. I can understand individual words, but when I hear native speakers talking, they sound so, it's so effortless.
You know why that is? It's because they're often using phrases and idioms, those colorful expressions that give their speech personality and make it flow smoothly. They wouldn't just say, it's easy. They might say, it's a piece of cake.
So it's about getting those subtle things, those expressions that go beyond just knowing the words themselves.
Exactly. And the best way to learn these is by immersing yourself in real English content. Podcasts, movies, TV shows, they're full of these natural expressions, and you can see how native speakers really use the language.
It's like you're absorbing the rhythm and the flow of the language, not just the individual words, right? I definitely notice that when I'm watching my favorite shows in English, I start picking up those phrases without even realizing it.
That's the power of immersion for you. And remember, active listening is key here. Don't just have it on in the background. Really pay attention to the language they're using. Jot down interesting phrases and try to use them yourself.
Be a curious listener, like a detective trying to crack the code of fluent English.
I love that. And speaking of being active, we can't forget the power of writing.
Oh, right. Writing isn't just about putting words on paper, is it? It's a way to really play with your vocabulary, try out new expressions, and see how words work together.
Think of it as a playground for your language skills. Start a blog, write in a journal, maybe even try writing a short story. The important thing is to challenge yourself to use those new words and expressions you're learning in creative ways.
And if you're not really into, sharing your writing with the world, there are other ways to practice speaking, right?
Of course. There are language clubs, conversation groups, even online communities. They're great for meeting other learners and even native speakers. And you can try out your new vocab in a friendly space.
Yeah, like taking your language skills for a test drive. But let's be real. Learning vocabulary can feel like a roller coaster sometimes, you know. One day you feel super confident and fluent, and the next you're like blanking on the simplest words.
Oh, absolutely. It's totally normal. The important thing is to not get discouraged, right? And to have some strategies ready for those frustrating moments.
So what can we do when we feel like we're stuck in a vocab rut?
One of the most effective things is repetition. But not just any repetition, it's got to be spaced repetition. So you review the words at longer and longer intervals.
So instead of trying to cram a ton of words and then forgetting them, we should space out our practice and review them, like, strategically.
Got it. And the cool thing is, a lot of those vocab apps we talked about, they have spaced repetition built in, but even if you're using a regular vocab journal, you can totally adapt this technique.
That's awesome. I actually love using a physical journal, so I'll
Good.
definitely try that, spacing things out.
And don't forget to shake things up a bit. If you find yourself getting bored with your usual practice, try something new, like watching a movie with subtitles or listening to a podcast in English while you're, I don't know, commuting, or even try writing a poem or a song using some of your new words.
Ooh, I like that. Adding some creativity to the mix. And speaking of creativity, I've noticed that sometimes those tricky words stick better if I try to visualize them or
Yeah.
connect them to something personal, you know?
Totally. Those mnemonic devices we were talking about, they're
Yeah.
perfect for that. The more vivid and personal that image is, the more likely you are to remember the word. And don't be afraid to get silly with it.
Yeah, sometimes the silliest images are the ones that stick with you the most. Now, what about those times when you come across a word that has like multiple meanings or those subtle little shades of meaning that are hard to get? How do we deal with that?
Context is everything. Pay attention to how the word is used in the sentence, in the whole paragraph, even in the whole article or whatever you're reading or listening to. Don't be shy about looking up example sentences online or even asking a native speaker for help.
So it's like being a detective again, right?
Yeah.
Putting all the clues together to figure out the word's true meaning.
Exactly. And as you keep seeing that word in different situations, those nuances will become clearer and you'll get a deeper understanding of all its different shades of meaning.
Like you're adding layers of understanding to each word, building a richer vocabulary.
That's a great way to put it. Now let's talk about something people often get wrong when it comes to building a native-like vocabulary. A lot of people think it's all about learning as many words as possible.
Right. But I'm realizing it's not just about quantity, it's more about quality and how you use those words.
Exactly. It's like having a toolbox full of tools, but if you don't know how to use them, they're not going to be much help, are they? Same with vocabulary.
So it's not enough to just know what a word means.
Yeah.
You've got to understand how it works in a sentence, its connotations, and when to use it appropriately.
Exactly. And that's where grammar comes in. Grammar is like the glue that holds language together. It helps us build sentences that make sense and communicate our ideas clearly.
So building vocabulary and improving your grammar go hand in hand. They're two sides of the same coin.
You got it. And as you keep learning, you'll find that those two skills, they really reinforce each other.
It's like building a house.
Right.
You need both strong bricks and good mortar to create a solid structure.
I like that analogy. And speaking of building a strong structure, let's step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. Why is it so good to develop a native-like vocabulary?
This is where it gets really interesting. It's not just about being able to speak, it's about unlocking this whole new world of communication and understanding.
Exactly. A strong vocabulary allows you to express yourself clearly and precisely, and even with a touch of elegance. You can paint pictures with your words, have deeper conversations, and connect with people in a more meaningful way.
It's like you have this key that unlocks hidden doors in the language, and you can see all these new layers of meaning and beauty.
And it's not just about communicating with others, it also helps you understand the world around you better. You'll be able to understand more complex texts, appreciate the subtle things in literature and movies, and even think more critically and creatively.
It's like expanding your mental horizons, you know, seeing
Yeah.
the world through a new lens.
And let's not forget about the confidence boost that comes with having a good command of the language.
Oh, yeah. When you feel confident in your ability to express yourself, you're more likely to join conversations, share your ideas, even try new things. It can be really powerful.
It really can. And it's important to remember that building a native-like vocabulary, it doesn't happen overnight, right? It's a journey. It takes dedication, patience, and being okay with those ups and downs along the way.
But it's a journey that's so worth it. Every new word you learn, every subtle shade of meaning you understand, every conversation you have, it brings you closer to fluency and opens up new possibilities.
Absolutely. And it's a journey that never really ends. You know, even native speakers are always learning new words and expanding their vocabulary. That's the beautiful thing about language. It's always changing, always offering something new to discover.
So it's not about reaching a specific destination. It's about enjoying the journey and embracing the lifelong process of learning a language.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So let's go over some of the key things we talked about today.
We started by talking about how it's important to learn vocab in context, using those mnemonic devices and creating a personal vocabulary journal.
Then we explored spaced repetition, trying different ways to learn and immersing ourselves in real English content.
We also talked about the challenges of understanding those subtle shades of meaning, how grammar and vocabulary are connected, and how to handle the ups and downs of learning a language.
And last but not least, we dove into all the benefits of building a native-like vocabulary, like better communication, deeper understanding, more confidence, and a lifelong love of learning languages.
This has been awesome, exploring all these little details of how to build our vocabulary. But before we go, I want to leave everyone with a challenge.
Oh yeah, let's put all this great advice into action.
I'm ready. What do you think we should do?
Okay, so think about one word you learned today that really, really stuck with you. A word you can actually see yourself using,
Okay, I've got one.
Awesome. So the challenge is try to use that word at least 3 times today in real conversations or even just in your writing.
Ooh, I like that. It's a small thing, but it's a really powerful way to make that word part of your everyday vocabulary.
Exactly. It's like planting a seed and watching it grow. And who knows, maybe that one word will spark a whole new conversation or inspire you to do something creative.
I love that. So to everyone listening, we challenge you to join us on this vocabulary adventure. Pick a word, make it yours, and let it bloom.
And remember, every step you take on this journey brings you closer to expressing yourself confidently, authentically, and with that touch of linguistic magic.
That's all for a deep dive today on Speak More Fluently. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time when we'll explore another fascinating part of the English language. Happy speaking.